Dr. Sarah Mitchell stood outside the small ranch house in rural Virginia, reviewing her case file one more time before knocking. The afternoon sun was warm, but she felt cold dread settling in her stomach. This was going to be a difficult assignment. Client, Commander James, Phantom Reeves, USN, Ret. Asterisk age, 34. Service, Navy SEAL, 12 years active duty. Injuries, multiple combat wounds, traumatic brain injury, severe PTSD. Current status, medically retired, isolated, non-compliant with VA treatment recommendations. Assignment, in-home therapy, crisis intervention, suicide risk assessment. Sarah was a clinical psychologist who specialized in combat trauma and veteran mental health. She'd worked with dozens of former special operations personnel, helping them navigate the brutal transition from warrior to civilian. But something about this case felt heavier than usual. The referral had come from Commander Reeves's former SEAL team commander, who'd made it clear this was a last-ditch effort. James Reeves had been refusing treatment for 18 months, had burned through 3 previous therapists, and was deteriorating rapidly. The commander feared Reeves was planning suicide and had essentially ordered Sarah to fix him before it was too late. No pressure. Sarah knocked on the door, no response. She knocked again, louder this time. "Go away," a voice shouted from inside. "I don't want whatever you're selling." "Commander Reeves, my name is Dr. Sarah Mitchell. Your former commander asked me to check on you. I'm a psychologist who works with veterans." I said go away, I don't need a shrink. "I understand, but I'm here and I drove 2 hours to see you, so you might as well let me in. Otherwise, I'll just sit on your porch until you do. I'm very patient." Silence, then footsteps approaching the door. The man who opened it looked nothing like the professional military photo Sarah had seen in his file. That photo showed a confident, squared-away SEAL in dress uniform, clean-cut, clear-eyed, the picture of elite warrior competence. The man before her now was gaunt, with at least 2 weeks of beard growth, wearing stained sweatpants and a t-shirt that had seen better days. His eyes were hollow, circled with dark shadows that spoke of sleepless nights. He looked like he'd aged a decade in the 18 months since his medical retirement. "You've got 5 minutes, Reeves said, not opening the door fully. "Then you leave and don't come back." "Deal, can I come in?" Reeves hesitated, then stepped aside. Sarah entered and immediately noticed several things. The house was relatively clean but sterile, with few personal touches. The curtains were drawn despite the beautiful day outside, and most tellingly, there was a dog bed in the living room with a very old, very sick German shepherd lying in it. The dog raised his head as Sarah entered, his tail making a weak attempt to wag before he settled back down with obvious effort. "That's Havoc," Reeves said, his voice softening for the first time. "My military working dog. We served together for 8 years before we both got medically retired." Sarah could see immediately that Havoc was dying. The dog was painfully thin, his breathing labored, his eyes clouded. He looked like he was holding on through sheer force of will, or maybe holding on for his handler's sake. "How old is he?" Sarah asked gently. 13, he's got cancer. Vet says he's got maybe a few weeks left, maybe less. Pain meds are keeping him comfortable, but Reeves's voice cracked. "I'm going to lose him soon." Sarah understood instantly why this case was so critical. Havoc wasn't just Reeves's dog, he was his lifeline, his last connection to his SEAL identity, possibly the only thing keeping Reeves alive. When Havoc died, Reeves might decide he had no reason to keep living. "Can I sit?" Sarah asked. "Fine, your 5 minutes are ticking." Sarah sat on the couch, deliberately choosing a spot where she could see both Reeves and Havoc. "Commander, I'm not here to fix you or to pressure you into treatment you don't want. I'm here because people who care about you are worried. And based on what I'm seeing, they have good reason to be." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're isolated, you're not sleeping, you're probably not eating regularly. And you're about to lose the one companion who's been keeping you grounded. That's not fine, that's a crisis. Reeves's jaw tightened. What do you want from me? Right now, just to talk, to understand what you're going through, to see if there's anything I can do to help, not fix you, but help you. Why do you care? You don't know me. I care because I've worked with enough veterans to understand that what you're experiencing isn't weakness or failure. It's a normal response to abnormal circumstances. You spent 12 years in one of the most elite military units in the world, Expuri. And said trauma most people can't imagine, and then got medically retired against your will. That's devastating. Anyone would struggle. Reeves was quiet for a long moment, studying Sarah with the kind of intense evaluation she recognized from other special operations veterans. Assessing threat level, determining trustworthiness, deciding whether to engage or shut down. You read my file, he finally said, so you know what happened to me, the mission that ended my career, the reason I'm broken. Sarah knew the basics from the file: a raid in Syria that went wrong, explosive device, Reeves and Havoc both injured. But she wanted to hear it from him. I know what's in the official reports, but I don't know your experience, what it was like for you. Reeves looked at Havoc, and his expression transformed, the hardness melting into something raw and painful. Havoc saved my life. We were clearing a compound, and he alerted to explosives in a room I was about to enter. I trusted his alert and held the team back, but some trigger-happy insurgent detonated the device remotely anyway. Havoc took the worst of the blast. He was closer to the explosion than I was. I got a traumatic brain injury and shrapnel wounds. He got his hind legs shattered and internal injuries that required multiple surgeries. Reeves's voice was thick with emotion. They wanted to euthanize him, said his injuries were too severe, that he'd never walk properly again, that keeping him alive would be cruel. But I fought for him, refused to let them give up on him. Paid for his surgeries myself, did physical therapy with him for months, got him walking again. And now he's dying anyway, and I can't save him this time. Sarah felt her throat tighten with empathy. You gave him 2 more years, 2 years of life he wouldn't have had if you'd let them euthanize him. That's not failure, that's love. It's not enough. He saved my life. He served with courage and loyalty for 8 years, and now he's dying in pain, and there's nothing I can do except watch him fade away. That's the hardest part of loving dogs, Sarah said softly. They give us everything and then they leave us. It's not fair, but those 2 years you gave Havoc, I guarantee he was grateful for them. Dogs don't think about the future. They live in the present, and every day you've given him has been a gift. Reeves wiped at his eyes angrily. Why are you being nice to me? Everyone else treats me like I'm a problem to be solved, a broken thing that needs fixing. But you're talking to me like I'm human. Because you are human. You're not broken, Commander. You're injured and grieving and facing multiple losses at once: your career, your identity, your health, and now your closest companion. That's overwhelming. But it doesn't mean you're broken beyond repair. For the first time, Reeves really looked at Sarah, not assessing her as a threat, but seeing her as a person. Your 5 minutes are up. They are. Do you want me to leave? Reeves looked at Havoc again, then back at Sarah. No, you can stay, but I'm not making any promises about therapy or treatment or any of that shit. Fair enough. How about we just sit here and you tell me about Havoc, what he was like in his prime, his best missions, who he was before he got old and sick. And Reeves did. For the next 2 hours, he talked about Havoc, the explosives detection work that saved countless lives, the time Havoc apprehended an insurgent who'd been about to kill a wounded SEAL, the bond they'd built through years of training and combat operations. Sarah listened, asked questions, and slowly, carefully built rapport with this isolated, grieving warrior who'd spent 18 months pushing everyone away. When Sarah finally left that evening, she had Reeves's permission to return the following week. It was a small victory, but it was something. Driving home, Sarah thought about Havoc lying in that dog bed, dying slowly, his handler watching helplessly. She thought about the desperation in Reeves's eyes when he talked about losing his dog, about the very real possibility that Havoc's death would trigger Reeves's suicide. She needed to do something. Standard therapy wasn't going to be enough here. Reeves needed something more, something that acknowledged his grief, honored Havoc's service, and gave Reeves a reason to keep living after his dog was gone. Sarah made a phone call to a colleague, Dr. Robert Chen, a veterinarian who specialized in end-of-life care for service animals and had connections throughout the military working dog community. "Rob, I need your help with something unusual." Sarah returned to Reeves's house 3 days later, but this time she wasn't alone. Dr. Robert Chen accompanied her, along with a portable veterinary examination kit. Reeves opened the door looking suspicious. "I said you could come back. I didn't say you could bring people." "This is Dr. Chen. He's a veterinarian who specializes in end-of-life care for military working dogs. I asked him to do a consultation on Havoc, no charge, just a professional opinion on his current condition and what we can do to keep him comfortable." "I already have a vet." "I know, but Dr. Chen has experience with retired MWDs that most civilian vets don't have, and he's driven 2 hours to be here. Can he at least examine Havoc?" Reeves looked torn between his instinct to refuse help and his desperate desire to do anything that might ease Havoc's suffering. Love for his dog won out. "Fine, but if he says anything about euthanasia being the humane choice, he's leaving immediately." Dr. Chen, who'd been briefed by Sarah about Reeves's situation, spoke gently. "Commander Reeves, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your dog. I'm here to assess his condition and discuss options. Whatever decisions need to be made are yours to make. I'm just here to provide information." The examination was thorough but gentle. Dr. Chen spoke to Havoc in a calm voice, praising him as a good boy and brave warrior as he checked vital signs, palpated the masses where cancer was spreading, and assessed pain levels. After 20 minutes, Dr. Chen sat back and looked at Reeves with compassion. "Havoc is in the advanced stages of lymphoma. The cancer has spread to multiple organs, and his body is starting to shut down. Based on his current condition, I'd estimate he has 1 to 3 weeks left, possibly less." Reeves's face was like stone, but Sarah could see his hands shaking. "The good news," Dr. Chen continued, "is that he's not in severe pain right now. The medications he's on are managing his discomfort reasonably well. But as the disease progresses, those medications will become less effective. At some point, probably within the next week or 2, you'll face a decision about quality of life." "I'm not putting him down early just because it's convenient," Reeves said harshly. "I wouldn't ask you to. But Commander, there's a difference between fighting for more time and prolonging suffering. When the time comes, and you'll know when it does, the most loving thing you can do is give Havoc a peaceful end, surrounded by people who love him." Reeves was silent, his jaw working as he fought for control. Sarah spoke up. "Commander, Dr. Chen has a program that might interest you. It's called the Military Working Dog Dignity Project. Can he tell you about it?" Dr. Chen nodded. "The program was created specifically for handlers like you, warriors who have lost their MWD partners or are facing that loss. It has 2 components. First, when the time comes, we provide at-home euthanasia services. Havoc can pass peacefully in his own space, with you beside him, no stressful trip to a clinic. Second, and more importantly, we help handlers create a legacy for their dogs. We document their service, create memorial presentations, and connect handlers with support resources. Because losing your MWD isn't like losing a pet, it's losing your brother-in-arms, your teammate, part of your identity." Reeves looked interested, despite his defensive posture. "What does creating a legacy mean?" "It means honoring Havoc's service in tangible ways. We can help you write up his service record for permanent archives. We can create a memorial video with photos and stories from his career. We can connect you with other MWD handlers who have experienced similar losses. and we can help you find ways to channel your grief into something meaningful. Why would you do all this? What's in it for you? Nothing except knowing that warriors like Havoc get the honor and respect they deserve, and that handlers like you don't have to face this loss alone. Dr. Chen pulled out a folder. I brought information about the program. Look it over. If you're interested, Sarah has my contact information. After Dr. Chen left, Sarah stayed behind. Reeves sat beside Havoc's bed, stroking the old dog's head, lost in thought. This is hard, Reeves finally said. Knowing he's dying, knowing I can't stop it, knowing I'm going to have to make the decision to end his life when the pain gets too bad. It's one of the hardest things anyone can do, Sarah agreed. But making that decision isn't giving up on Havoc. It's giving him the final gift of a peaceful end. That's love. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You're strong enough. You fought for him when others wanted to give up. You gave him 2 more years of life. You'll find the strength to let him go when it's time. And then what? What do I do when he's gone? Havoc is the only thing that gets me out of bed in the morning. The only reason I'm still alive. When he's gone, Reeves's voice broke. I don't know if I want to keep going. Sarah had known this was coming, the admission that Havoc was all that stood between Reeves and suicide. Commander, can I be very direct with you? Go ahead. Yo. You were right that losing Havoc is going to be devastating. You're right that it's going to leave a huge hole in your life. But here's what I need you to understand. Havoc's death doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be a turning point, the moment where you decide how to honor his legacy by how you choose to live. Havoc saved your life multiple times, in combat and after you were injured. The greatest way to honor that sacrifice is to actually live the life he saved. Not just survive, but truly live. Build something meaningful. Help other veterans. Create a legacy that makes his service matter beyond just the missions you ran together. Reeves was quiet for a long time. Then, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to be anything except a SEAL, and I'm not that anymore. Then we figure it out together. That's what therapy is, not fixing you, but helping you discover who you can be now that you're not active duty. There's life after the teams, Commander. Different life, but still worthwhile. Will you help me? The question was small, vulnerable, completely unlike the hardened warrior who'd first opened the door. Yes, I'll help you. Through Havoc's end-of-life care, through the grief afterward, through building a new life. I'll be here, you won't be alone. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You're getting paid either way, so why do you actually care? Sarah considered how to answer honestly. Because I've watched too many veterans die by suicide after losing their purpose, their identity, their reason to live. Because I believe warriors like you deserve support after your service ends. And because honestly, I see something in you worth saving. You fought for Havoc when others gave up. Now I'm fighting for you. That's how this works. Reeves nodded slowly. Okay, I'll try therapy, I'll work with you, but I need something from you. What? When the time comes, when I have to let Havoc go, I need you to be here. I can't do it alone. I'll be here, Sarah promised. When that time comes, you won't face it alone. Over the next week, Sarah visited daily. Initially, the sessions were structured around Havoc, talking about his service, documenting his career, preparing for his death. But gradually, the conversations expanded to include Reeves's own struggles, his injuries, his grief over losing his SEAL career. Sarah learned that Reeves had no family, his parents were dead, and he'd never married because he'd been too focused on his career. His closest friends were his SEAL team, but most of them were still active duty and deployed. He'd isolated himself after retirement because he felt like a burden, like a broken version of the warrior he'd once been. Havoc had been his only companion, his only source of connection and purpose. And now Havoc was dying. On the 8th day of Sarah's visits, Havoc suddenly declined. He stopped eating, could barely stand, and was clearly in significant pain despite the medications. Reeves called Sarah in a panic. I think it's time. I don't know what to do. I'm calling Dr. Chen now. We'll both come over. You're not doing this alone. Sarah and Dr. Chen arrived within an hour. Havoc was lying in his bed, breathing shallowly, his eyes clouded with pain and exhaustion. When Reeves knelt beside him, the dog's tail made one weak wag, his way of saying he knew his handler was there. "Commander Reeves," Dr. Chen said gently, "Havoc is suffering. His body is shutting down and the pain medications can't keep up anymore. I believe it's time to help him pass peacefully, but this is your decision. Take whatever time you need." Reeves looked at Sarah with desperate, pleading eyes. "I don't want him to die." "I know, but you don't want him to suffer either. And right now, he's suffering. The most loving thing you can do is let him go." Reeves bent over Havoc, his face pressed against the dog's head, sobbing. "I'm sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry I can't save you this time. You were the best dog, the best partner, the best friend anyone could ask for. Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for everything." Havoc's tail wagged weakly one more time. "I love you, and I'm going to miss you so much." Dr. Chen prepared the injection while Reeves held Havoc, stroking his head, whispering to him. Sarah knelt on Havoc's other side, one hand on Reeves's shoulder, providing silent support. "This is a sedative first," Dr. Chen explained. "It'll help him relax and drift off to sleep. Then I'll give the final injection that stops his heart. He won't feel pain, he'll just fall asleep and not wake up." The sedative went in, and within seconds Havoc's breathing slowed. His body relaxed. His eyes closed. "Good boy," Reeves whispered. "Such a good boy. Rest now, you've earned it." Dr. Chen administered the final injection. Havoc's breathing slowed further, then stopped. His heart stopped beating, and just like that, the dog who'd served for 8 years, who'd saved countless lives, who'd been Reeves's closest companion and reason for living, was gone. Reeves sobbed deep, wrenching sobs that came from his soul. Sarah held him, letting him grieve, providing the human connection he desperately needed in this moment of unbearable loss. They stayed like that for a long time, Reeves holding his dead dog, Sarah holding Reeves, Dr. Chen waiting respectfully. Finally, Reeves looked up. "What happens now?" "Now we take care of Havoc's remains," Dr. Chen said gently. "We have a service that handles cremations for military working dogs with full honors. Havoc will be treated with the respect he deserves. You'll receive his ashes in a custom urn, along with a certificate of his service and a flag in his honor." "And what about me?" Reeves asked, his voice breaking. "What am I supposed to do now?" Sarah squeezed his shoulder. "Now you grieve, you let yourself feel the loss, and when you're ready, when the grief isn't quite so overwhelming, we start building a new life. A life that honors Havoc's memory by being worth living." "I don't know if I can." "You can, I'll help you, we'll do it together." After Dr. Chen took Havoc's body, Sarah stayed with Reeves. She didn't try to counsel him or push him to talk. She just stayed, silent companionship in the face of devastating loss. That night, Reeves looked at the empty dog bed where Havoc had spent his final days. "I keep expecting him to be there. I keep thinking I hear him breathing. The house feels so empty." "It will for a while. Grief is like that. It fills every space, makes everything feel hollow. But it will get better. Slowly, gradually, the sharp pain will dull to an ache. The memories will make you smile instead of just making you cry. You'll learn to live with the loss." "What if I don't want to live with it? What if I'd rather just stop?" Sarah had known this moment would come. "Commander, you promised me you'd try. You promised you'd work with me to build a life worth living. Havoc died peacefully because you loved him enough to let him go. Can you honor that sacrifice by staying alive, by fighting for yourself the way you fought for him?" Reeves was silent for a long time. Then, very quietly, "I'll try. I don't know if I can, but I'll try. That's all I ask, and you won't do it alone. I'm here. We'll figure this out together." Sarah stayed until Reeves fell into an exhausted sleep on the couch. Then she let herself out quietly, locking the door behind her, and sat in her car for several minutes, processing the evening. She just watched a warrior lose his closest companion. She'd witnessed grief in its rawest, most devastating form. And she knew the next few weeks were critical, the period where Reeves was most at risk, most vulnerable, most likely to follow through on suicidal thoughts. But Sarah also felt something she hadn't expected: hope. Because Reeves had made a promise, he'd agreed to try. And Sarah had seen enough veterans to know that sometimes the promise to try was enough to get someone through the darkest moments. Now, she just had to keep Reeves alive long enough for the light to come back. The first week after Havoc's death was brutal. Reeves barely slept, barely ate, barely functioned. Sarah visited daily, sometimes staying for hours, just providing presence and stability while Reeves rode out waves of grief. On day 3, Havoc's ashes arrived in a beautiful wooden urn with a brass plaque. K9 Havoc. Military working dog. United States Navy. Asterisk 8 years of faithful service. 2011-2024 asterisk. Also included was a folded American flag, a certificate documenting Havoc's service record, and a letter from Dr. Chen's organization thanking Havoc for his sacrifice and honoring his legacy. Reeves sat holding the urn for over an hour, not speaking, just processing the finality of it all. "I don't know where to put him," he finally said to Sarah. "It feels wrong to just set the urn on a shelf like decoration. Where feels right to you?" Reeves looked around his sterile living room. "Nowhere in this house feels right. This place was just somewhere to exist, not somewhere to live. Havoc deserved better than this. So maybe we make it better. Make it a home instead of just a house. Create a space that honors Havoc's memory." "I don't know how to do that." "Then we figure it out together." Over the next several days, Sarah helped Reeves transform his house. They opened curtains, letting light flood in for the first time in months. They hung photos of Havoc from his prime, the professional military working dog shots showing him alert, confident, doing the work he loved. They created a memorial corner in the living room with Havoc's urn, his service medals, the flag, and the working dog vest he'd worn on missions. It became a shrine, not morbid, but honoring, a way to keep Havoc's memory pure. Reeves started eating regularly again because Sarah insisted they cook meals together during her visits. She taught him basic meal planning and preparation, skills he'd never developed because he'd spent his adult life in military facilities where food was provided. "This is stupid," Reeves said while chopping vegetables for a stir-fry. "I'm a grown man learning to cook like I'm a teenager." "This is survival," Sarah corrected. "Nutrition matters for mental health. Depression loves malnutrition, gives it more power. So we cook, we eat properly, and we give your brain the fuel it needs to heal." They also started walking. Sarah would arrive each morning, and they'd walk through the woods behind Reeves's house, sometimes talking, sometimes in comfortable silence. The exercise helped Reeves sleep better, and the routine provided structure to his days. 2 weeks after Havoc's death, Sarah introduced a new element to therapy. "I want you to write about Havoc. Not just facts about his service, but stories, the funny things he did, the times he made you laugh, the moments that defined your partnership." "Why?" "Because right now, all you can remember is losing him. The grief is so overwhelming that it's blocking out all the good memories. Writing helps you reconnect with those positive memories, helps you remember why Havoc's life mattered beyond just his death." Reeves was skeptical but agreed to try. And once he started writing, the stories poured out. He wrote about the time Havoc stole an entire pizza from the Chow Hall and was found guilty of the crime by the tomato sauce on his muzzle. About how Havoc would sing, an off-key howl whine, whenever certain songs came on the radio. About the night Havoc had curled up beside Reeves during a particularly bad PTSD episode, providing comfort without judgment. The stories made Reeves laugh through tears. They reminded him that Havoc's life had been rich and full, not just the painful ending. "I forgot how goofy he could be," Reeves said during one session while reading his stories aloud to Sarah. I was so focused on his working dog role that I forgot he was also just a dog who liked pizza and howling and chasing squirrels. That's the fullness of who he was, Sarah said. Warrior and companion, professional working dog and goofy pizza thief. Remembering all of him, not just the end, that's how you honor his memory. 3 weeks after Havoc's death, Sarah broached a difficult topic. Commander, we need to talk about what comes next for you. Long term, after grief isn't quite so acute, what do you want your life to look like? I don't know, I honestly haven't thought that far ahead. Then let's think about it now. What gave you purpose when you were active duty? The mission, protecting people, being part of something bigger than myself, making a difference. Those things don't have to end just because you're retired. There are lots of ways to protect people, to be part of something meaningful, to make a difference outside of military service. Like what? Like working with other veterans who are struggling, like advocating for better mental health services, like training service dogs for disabled veterans, like a dozen other things that use your skills and experience in new contexts. Reeves looked interested but hesitant. I don't know if I'm qualified for any of that. I'm just a broken seal. You're not broken. You're injured and grieving. There's a difference. And your experience, both your military service and your struggle with PTSD and grief, makes you uniquely qualified to help others facing similar challenges. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. 1 month after Havoc's death, Dr. Chen called Sarah with an unexpected opportunity. There's a military working dog program that's shutting down due to budget cuts. They have 6 dogs who need civilian homes, all young, healthy dogs who were in training, but didn't complete certification for various reasons. Not aggressive or dangerous, just didn't quite meet the specific requirements for military work. Why are you telling me this? Because I think Commander Reeves should adopt one. Not as a replacement for Havoc, nothing could replace him, but as a new companion. Someone to care for, a reason to maintain routines, a bridge back to the world of military working dogs he loved. Sarah was uncertain. It's only been a month, isn't that too soon? For some people, yes, but Reeves isn't some people. He's a dog handler at heart. He understands dogs, connects with them in ways he can't connect with humans, and based on what you've told me, he needs purpose. Taking on a young dog who needs training and guidance could give him that. Let me talk to him. When Sarah presented the idea to Reeves, his first reaction was resistance. I'm not ready, I can't replace Havoc. Nobody's talking about replacing Havoc, we're talking about Jivy. And a home to a dog who needs one and giving you a companion who needs you. That's different. What if I can't do it? What if I'm not a good handler anymore? You'll always be a good handler. That skill doesn't disappear just because you're grieving, and this dog, whoever it is, would be lucky to have you. Can I think about it? Of course, but Commander, Havoc wouldn't want you to shut yourself off from ever loving another dog. He'd want you to open your heart again, to share the gift of companionship with another dog who needs it. That's not betrayal, that's honoring his legacy. 2 days later, Reeves called Sarah. Okay, I'll meet the dogs, no promises, but I'll meet them. The following week, Sarah drove Reeves to the military working dog facility 3 hours away. 6 dogs were presented, all young adults, all high-energy working breeds, all needing homes. Reeves walked past the first 5 without much reaction. But the 6th dog, a 2-year-old Belgian Malinois named Phoenix, caught his attention. Phoenix had been training for explosive detection, but had been released from the program because he was too sensitive. He'd shut down under harsh corrections and needed a gentle handling approach that wasn't standard in military training. When the handler brought Phoenix out, the dog immediately focused on Reeves, reading his body language, assessing his energy, making a decision about this potential new person. Then Phoenix approached and sat directly in front of Reeves, exactly as military working dogs are trained to do when they've detected something important. The dog was essentially saying, I found something. I found you. Reeves knelt down and Phoenix leaned into him, seeking connection and reassurance. The dog's tail wagged hopefully, and he made soft whining sounds, not distress but communication. "He likes you," the handler said. "Phoenix has been struggling in the kennels. He's anxious, needs more human connection than we can provide in a training environment. He'd thrive in a home with an experienced handler who understands sensitive dogs." Reeves looked at Sarah. "What do you think?" "I think Phoenix is looking at you like he knows you need each other, and I think Havoc would approve." "Okay, I'll take him. But Sarah, you have to help me. I haven't trained a young dog in years, and I'm not sure I remember how." "We'll figure it out together. That's what we do, right?" Bringing Phoenix home was transformative. Suddenly, Reeves had responsibilities again: feeding schedules, training sessions, exercise requirements. He couldn't stay in bed all day because Phoenix needed walks. He couldn't skip meals because Phoenix needed to eat on a schedule. The house came alive in ways it hadn't since Havoc's death. Phoenix was young and energetic, nothing like the elderly Havoc who'd spent his final days sleeping. Phoenix demanded engagement, play, training. And Reeves rose to the challenge. He started researching positive reinforcement training methods, the gentle approach Phoenix needed. He set up training sessions in his backyard. He taught Phoenix basic obedience and started introducing explosive detection work using training aids. "Phoenix is smart," Reeves told Sarah during one of their sessions. "Really smart. He just needs patience and consistency. The military program gave up on him too quickly." "Sound familiar?" Sarah asked with a knowing smile. Reeves paused, then laughed, the first genuine laugh Sarah had heard from him in months. "You think I'm projecting. I think you recognize a fellow warrior who is labeled as too broken or too sensitive to be useful. And I think you're proving, with Phoenix and with yourself, that those labels are wrong." "Maybe." But Sarah could see the change in Reeves. He was engaging with life again. He had purpose beyond just surviving. He was building something. 2 months after adopting Phoenix, Reeves made an announcement during therapy. "I want to start a nonprofit, an organization that rescues military working dogs who don't complete training, dogs like Phoenix who are labeled as failures, but really just need different handling. We'd place them with veterans who need companions and purpose, train the veterans to handle the dogs, give both the dogs and the veterans new missions." Sarah felt tears pricking her eyes. "Commander, that's an incredible idea. It's something Havoc taught me, that every dog deserves a chance, that the right handler can bring out the best in any dog, no matter what others say about them. And if I can help other veterans the way Phoenix has helped me, then Havoc's legacy continues. Through Phoenix, through this organization, through every dog and veteran you help." "Yeah, that's what I want. That's how I honor what Havoc gave me." Over the next several months, Reeves threw himself into building the organization. He connected with Dr. Chen's network of military working dog professionals. He reached out to veteran service organizations. He started fundraising and writing grant proposals. Sarah continued therapy sessions, but they'd evolved. Instead of crisis intervention, they were now working on sustainable mental health management, coping strategies for PTSD, techniques for managing grief, skills for building social connections. "You've come so far," Sarah told Reeves during their 6-month check-in. 6 months ago, you were isolated, suicidal, convinced your life was over. Now you're building something meaningful, helping others, engaging with the world." "I almost didn't make it," Reeves admitted. "When Havoc died, I wanted to die too. If you hadn't been there, if you hadn't helped me through it, I don't think I'd be here. But you are here, you chose to stay, you chose to fight, I just provided support. You did more than that. You saw me as someone worth saving when I couldn't see it myself. You fought for me the way I fought for Havoc. That mattered. What you did for Havoc, refusing to give up on him, fighting for his life, giving him 2 more years, that's the same thing I did for you. Warriors protect each other. That's how it works." 6 months after Havoc's death, Reeves held the first official event for his new nonprofit, Warrior K9 Rescue. The event brought together military working dog handlers, trainers, veterans, and advocates to celebrate the program's launch. Reeves gave a speech that moved everyone present. 6 months ago, I lost my partner, my friend, my reason for living. K9 Havoc was an exceptional military working dog who saved my life multiple times, in combat and after I was injured. When he died, I didn't think I could survive the loss. But a therapist named Dr. Sarah Mitchell refused to let me give up. She helped me through the darkest period of my life. And she helped me understand that the best way to honor Havoc wasn't to die with him. It was to live in a way that made his sacrifice meaningful. Warrior K9 Rescue is Havoc's legacy. This organization will rescue military working dogs who are labeled as failures or unsuitable and match them with veterans who need purpose and companionship. We'll train both the dogs and the veterans, creating partnerships that heal and empower. Because that's what Havoc taught me, there's no such thing as a broken dog or a broken warrior. There are only dogs and warriors who need the right support, the right handling, the right chance to show what they're capable of. This program is my promise to Havoc and to every military working dog who serves. Your sacrifice matters, your service is honored, and when your military career ends, whether through retirement, injury, or not completing training, there's still a mission for you, still purpose, still value. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting this mission. And thank you to Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who saved my life so I could do this work. The applause was thunderous. People were crying. And Sarah, standing at the back of the room with Phoenix sitting calmly at Reeves's feet on stage, felt profound satisfaction. She'd been hired to fix a broken Navy SEAL. But what she'd actually done was help a grieving warrior discover that he wasn't broken, just injured, grieving, and in need of support to find his way forward. And what Reeves had discovered through Havoc's death was that love and purpose didn't end with loss. They transformed, evolved, found new expressions. Havoc's life had mattered. His death had mattered. And the legacy Reeves was building in his name would help hundreds of dogs and veterans for years to come. That was healing. That was transformation. That was what happened when someone refused to give up on a warrior in his darkest hour. 3 years after Havoc's death, Warrior K9 Rescue had rescued and placed 73 military working dogs with veteran handlers. The organization had expanded to operate in 8 states, with professional trainers, veterinarians, and mental health professionals supporting each placement. The model was simple but effective. Identify military working dogs who didn't complete training or were retired early, match them with veterans struggling with PTSD or transition issues, provide comprehensive training for both dog and handler, and offer ongoing support to ensure success. The results were remarkable. Follow-up studies showed that veterans in the program had 60% lower rates of depression, 45% lower rates of suicidal ideation, and significantly better overall quality of life compared to veterans not in the program. Reeves had become a national advocate for both military working dogs and veteran mental health. He testified before Congress about the healing power of human-animal bonds, consulted with the VA on program development, and traveled the country speaking at conferences and events. But his favorite part of the work was still the individual play-seam. NTS, meeting veterans who reminded him of himself 3 years ago, seeing their transformation as they bonded with their new dogs, witnessing the healing that happened when broken warriors found purpose in caring for broken dogs. Sarah remained involved as the organization's chief mental health consultant, providing training for the therapists who worked with program participants and maintaining her own small caseload of veterans who needed intensive support. She and Reeves had developed a deep friendship, the kind of bond that forms between people who have been through crisis together and come out stronger on the other side. One afternoon, Reeves called Sarah with unusual excitement in his voice. We just got a call from a handler whose MWD is dying. 13-year-old German Shepherd cancer, maybe 2 weeks left. The handler is isolated, suicidal risk, refusing outside help. It's exactly like my situation 3 years ago. And you want to help him, Sarah said, already knowing where this was going. Yes, because someone helped me, you helped me, and now I can pay that forward. Tell me about him. Master Sergeant David Torres, Army Special Forces, medically retired 2 years ago. His dog, Bolt, served with him for 9 years. Torres has been refusing VA services, pushed away his family, and according to his former commander, Bolt is the only thing keeping him alive. When does he need us? Now, Bolt's declining fast. Torres called our hotline in desperation. I want to go there, do what Dr. Chen did for me. Provide end-of-life services for Bolt, support for Torres, and hopefully convince him to accept ongoing help. I'll clear my schedule. When do we leave? Tomorrow morning. The next day, Sarah and Reeves drove 4 hours to a rural area of Tennessee where David Torres lived in a dilapidated mobile home on isolated land. The property looked abandoned, overgrown grass, peeling paint, broken steps. Torres answered the door looking like Reeves had looked 3 years ago, gaunt, hollow-eyed, clearly suffering. And inside, in a worn dog bed, lay Bolt, an elderly German shepherd who looked very much like Havoc had in his final days. Master Sergeant Torres, I'm James Reeves. This is Dr. Sarah Mitchell. Thank you for calling our hotline. Torres looked suspicious and defensive. I didn't ask for a house call. I just wanted information about your end-of-life services. I know, but I wanted to meet you in person, because 3 years ago I was exactly where you are now. My MWD Havoc was dying, I was suicidal, and I'd pushed everyone away. Someone helped me through it. Now I want to help you. Torres' defenses wavered slightly. Your dog died. 3 years ago, cancer just like Bolt. It was the worst experience of my life, but I survived it, and I want to help you survive it too. They talked for hours. Reeves shared his story, Havoc's death, his suicidal crisis, how Sarah had helped him, how Phoenix and Warrior K-9 Rescue had given him new purpose. He spoke with the authority of someone who'd lived through exactly what Torres was facing. And Torres listened in a way he probably wouldn't have listened to anyone else, because Reeves understood. He'd been there. He knew the specific hell of watching your MWD die while feeling like your own life was ending too. When Bolt's condition worsened that evening, Reeves was the one who helped Torres make the decision to let him go peacefully. And when Dr. Chen arrived to provide the euthanasia service, Reeves knelt beside Torres, supporting him through the devastating loss just as Sarah had supported Reeves. After Bolt passed, Sarah offered Torres the same thing she'd offered Reeves 3 years ago: ongoing support, therapy, help building a life worth living beyond the loss. Torres agreed. And over the next several months, with Reeves as his informal mentor and Sarah as his therapist, Torres began the slow journey out of grief and isolation. 6 months after Bolt's death, Torres adopted a young Belgian Malinois from Warrior K-9 Rescue, a dog who'd been released from military training for being too anxious, but who thrived under Torres' patient, experienced handling. Torres also became a volunteer for the organization, helping other handlers through similar losses, paying forward the support he'd received. This is what Havoc's death taught me, Reeves told Sarah during one of their check-in sessions. That suffering can be transformed into purpose. That loss can become legacy. That the way we honor our dead partners is by helping the living. You've built something extraordinary, Sarah replied. Not just the organization, but a movement. You've changed how people think about military working dogs, about veteran mental health, about the connection between the two. We built it, you, me, Dr. Chen, all the volunteers and supporters. Havoc started it by being an extraordinary dog worth fighting for, but we all built it together. 5 years after Havoc's death, Warrior K-9 Rescue held its first national conference. bringing together handlers, trainers, veterinarians, mental health professionals, and advocates from across the country to share best practices and celebrate successes. The keynote speaker was Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who'd been asked to present on her work with Reeves and the mental health model underpinning the organization's success. But Sarah had a surprise planned. 5 years ago, I was hired to provide therapy for a suicidal veteran who was about to lose his military working dog, Sarah began. Commander James Reeves had been labeled as broken, non-compliant, and high suicide risk. 3 previous therapists had given up on him, and I was sent in as a last-ditch effort to fix him before it was too late. What I found was not a broken man, but a grieving warrior facing multiple losses: his career, his health, his identity, and his closest companion. He wasn't broken. He was drowning, and what he needed wasn't to be fixed. He needed support to stay afloat until he could find solid ground again. Sarah clicked to a photo of Reeves from 5 years ago, the hollow-eyed, gaunt man who'd opened the door that first day. This is Commander Reeves when we first met. Isolated, suffering, barely surviving. Next photo, Reeves now, healthy and confident, standing with Phoenix and a group of Warrior K-9 rescue volunteers. This is Commander Reeves today. Leader of a national organization, advocate for military working dogs and veteran mental health, mentor to hundreds of handlers facing similar struggles. What changed? Not fixing. Not forcing him into standard treatment protocols, not labeling him as broken and giving up. What changed was meeting him where he was, supporting him through his darkest hour, and helping him discover that purpose and meaning don't end with loss, they transform. Sarah shared data about the organization's success, the mental health outcomes for participants, and the innovative model that combined animal-assisted therapy with peer support and professional services. But the real lesson of Commander Reeves's journey isn't about program statistics or treatment models. It's about something simpler and more profound. What happens when we refuse to give up on people in crisis? When we see past labels like broken or non-compliant to the human being underneath? When we provide the support people actually need instead of the support we think they should need? Commander Reeves wasn't fixed by therapy. He was supported through crisis until he could find his own path forward. And that path, Warrior K-9 Rescue, has now helped hundreds of other veterans and military working dogs. Sarah's final slide showed a photo she'd taken without Reeves knowing, him kneeling beside Tors during Bolt's euthanasia, providing the same support Sarah had once provided him. This is what healing looks like. Not someone being fixed by professionals, but someone healed enough to turn around and help others. Not isolation and suffering, but community and purpose. Not an ending, but a transformation. 5 years ago, I was hired to fix Commander Reeves, but he didn't need fixing. He needed someone to believe in him, to support him through crisis, and to help him discover that his most painful loss could become his greatest legacy. That's what Havoc gave him. That's what this organization embodies. And that's what all of us can offer to veterans in crisis. Not judgment or quick fixes, but support, belief, and the time and space to discover their own path forward. The standing ovation lasted 10 minutes. People were crying. And Reeves, sitting in the front row with Phoenix at his feet, was openly weeping, not from grief this time, but from gratitude and pride. After the conference, Reeves approached Sarah privately. "You never told me you'd been keeping notes and photos all these years." "Because I knew from the beginning that your story could help others. That your journey from crisis to purpose was important beyond just our therapeutic relationship." That photo of me with Tors, that was a private moment. "I know, and if you want, I'll never use it again. But James, that image perfectly captures what this work is about. Warriors supporting warriors, turning pain into purpose, refusing to let anyone face their darkest hours alone." Reeves was quiet for a moment. "Use it. Share the story. If it helps one more veteran survive their MWD's death, if it convinces one more handler to accept help, then my privacy doesn't matter. Thank you for trusting me 5 years ago, for doing the hard work of healing, for building something that's changing lives. Thank you for not giving up on me, for seeing something worth saving when I couldn't see it myself, for being there when Havoc died, for everything. They hugged, the embrace of two people who'd been through hell too. Together and emerged as found family. 10 years after Havoc's death, Warrior K9 Rescue had become the premier organization for retired and rescued military working dogs. They'd placed over 400 dogs with veteran handlers, had satellite programs in 30 states, and had inspired similar organizations internationally. Reeves had received numerous awards and honors, recognition from military organizations, veteran advocacy groups, and animal welfare organizations. But the honor he was most proud of was the one he received on the 10th anniversary of Havoc's death. The American Kennel Club's Humane Fund established the K9 Havoc Memorial Award, an annual honor recognizing individuals who exemplify Havoc's legacy of service, courage, and the healing power of the human-canine bond. The first recipient was Dr. Sarah Mitchell. At the awards ceremony, Reeves presented the award with a speech that brought the audience to tears. 10 years ago, my military working dog Havoc died of cancer. I was prepared to die with him. I'd lost my career, my identity, my purpose. Havoc was all I had left, and when he died, I saw no reason to keep living. Dr. Sarah Mitchell was hired to fix me, to provide emergency therapy for a suicidal veteran who'd burned through 3 previous therapists. She was my last chance, and I was determined to make her give up too. But Sarah didn't try to fix me. She didn't label me as broken or push me into standard treatment protocols. Instead, she did something radical. She saw me as a human being in crisis. She supported me through the devastating loss of my partner. And she helped me discover that Havoc's death didn't have to be the end of my story. It could be the beginning of a new chapter. What Sarah did for me goes beyond traditional therapy. When Havoc was dying, she showed up. She sat with me through his final hours. She held me while I sobbed. She didn't leave me alone in my darkest moment. After Havoc died, Sarah didn't just schedule weekly sessions and call it good. She came every day. She helped me learn to cook. She walked with me. She listened when I needed to talk and sat in silence when I didn't. She introduced me to Dr. Chen's Dignity program. She convinced me to adopt Phoenix. She believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Most importantly, Sarah helped me understand that healing doesn't mean forgetting or replacing what we've lost. It means transforming our pain into purpose, honoring our dead partners by how we choose to live. Warrior K9 Rescue exists because Sarah refused to give up on me. 400 military working dogs have been saved because she saw potential in a broken seal. Hundreds of veterans have found purpose and healing because she modeled what true support looks like. Reeves's voice broke with emotion. Sarah, you saved my life. You gave me the gift of time, time to heal, time to build something meaningful, time to honor Havoc's legacy. This award is just a small acknowledgement of the profound impact you've had on my life and on the lives of everyone this organization serves. The first K9 Havoc Memorial Award goes to Dr. Sarah Mitchell for exemplifying what it means to serve, to heal, and to never give up on warriors in crisis. Sarah accepted the award with tears streaming down her face. I didn't save Commander Reeves. He saved himself. I just refused to let him do it alone. And that's what all of us can do for veterans in crisis, refuse to let them fight their battles alone. Provide support, presence, and the unwavering belief that they have value beyond their military service. Havoc was an extraordinary dog who saved lives, served with courage, and taught his handler what unconditional loyalty looks like. This award bearing his name reminds us that the bonds between handlers and military working dogs are sacred, worthy of honor, support, and protection. Thank you, Commander Reeves, for allowing me to be part of your journey. Thank you for building something that honors Havoc's legacy. And thank you for showing hundreds of veterans that healing is possible, that purpose can be found after loss, and that we're stronger together than we ever could be alone. Phoenix, now 10 years old and showing signs of age, accompanied Reeves everywhere. The energetic young dog who'd once needed constant training and engagement had matured into a calm, confident companion, exactly what Reeves had needed him to become. One evening, Reeves sat in his living room, now warm and filled with photos of military working dogs, awards from the organization, and evidence of a life well lived. Phoenix slept on the couch beside him, and Havoc's urn remained in its place of honor on the memorial shelf. "I miss you, buddy," Reeves told Havoc's urn. "Every day I miss you, but I hope you're proud of what we built. Hope you know that your death wasn't meaningless. It became the foundation for something that's helped hundreds of dogs and handlers. Phoenix is getting old. I'll lose him someday too, probably sooner than I want. And it'll hurt just as much as losing you did. But I know now that I can survive that loss, that I can honor my dogs by living well, by helping others, by making their lives matter beyond just our time together. Thank you for staying with me after you were injured. Thank you for those 2 extra years. Thank you for showing me what loyalty and courage look like. Thank you for saving my life, in combat and after. I love you, I'll always love you. And every dog we save, every veteran we help, that's us honoring you." Reeves had learned through Havoc's death and the decade that followed that healing wasn't linear, wasn't complete, wasn't about moving on. It was about integration, learning to carry your grief alongside your joy, your loss alongside your purpose, your memories alongside your present. Havoc would always be part of him. The grief of losing him would always exist somewhere in Reeves's heart, but that grief didn't have to be the dominant force in his life anymore. Instead, it had become fuel, motivation, purpose. Havoc's death had nearly destroyed Reeves. But with Sarah's support, with Phoenix's companionship, with the work of building Warrior K9 Rescue, that death had been transformed into something beautiful and meaningful. 400 dogs saved, hundreds of veterans given purpose and healing, a national movement for better support of military working dogs and their handlers. That was Havoc's legacy. That was what happened when someone refused to give up on a warrior in crisis. That was what love looked like after death, not an ending, but a transformation into something that touched thousands of lives. And it all started because Sarah Mitchell was hired to fix a broken Navy SEAL, but instead chose to simply be present while he healed himself. Sometimes that's all anyone needs. Not to be fixed, just to be supported, to be believed in, to be given time and space to discover that they're not broken, just wounded. And wounds with the right care can heal. The end. Epilogue 15 years later. Warrior K9 Rescue celebrated its 15th anniversary, having placed over 1,000 military working dogs with veteran handlers. The organization had become the gold standard for programs combining service dogs with veteran mental health support. James Reeves, now 50 years old, had stepped back from daily operations to focus on advocacy and mentoring. Phoenix had passed away 5 years earlier at age 15, and Reeves had adopted another rescued military working dog, a German shepherd named Legacy, in honor of Havoc. Dr. Sarah Mitchell had written 3 books about her work with military veterans and the healing power of human-animal bonds. She continued consulting for Warrior K9 Rescue and maintained a small private practice focused on veterans with PTSD. But the true measure of their work wasn't in numbers or accolades. It was in the individual lives changed, the veteran who didn't die by suicide because he had a dog who needed him. The military working dog who got a second chance instead of euthanasia. The families reunited because a veteran found purpose and healing. Every one of those stories traced back to a single moment 15 years earlier. A suicidal SEAL watching his dog die, convinced his own life was ending too. and a therapist who refused to give up, who chose to simply be present, who understood that sometimes the greatest healing comes not from fixing people, but from supporting them while they heal themselves. Havoc's urn remained in its place of honor in Reeves's home, a reminder of the dog who'd saved his handler's life in every way that mattered, whose death had become a catalyst for a movement that would help thousands. And every veteran who walked through Warrior K9 Rescue's doors heard Havoc's story, a reminder that loss could become legacy, that grief could become purpose, and that the way we honor our fallen companions is by living lives worthy of their sacrifice. That was Havoc's final gift, teaching his handler that love doesn't end with death. It just transforms into something new. Something beautiful. Something that saves lives for generations. And sometimes, all it takes is one person refusing to look away. One person choosing to care. One person saying, "You're not alone, and you're worth fighting for." That was Sarah's gift to Reeves. That was Reeves's gift to hundreds of veterans. That was the legacy that would endure forever.